Good day. I'm Kelly, and today we're taking a closer look at GemSpace, its products, its structure, and where it stands right now. Two strategic directions driven by strong ambition, rapid innovation, and a clear roadmap for growth. In this session, we will introduce GemSpace B2C and GemTeam B2B, both of which are developing at an exceptional pace and are shaping the next stage of our business expansion. The first thing I want to say is a simple phrase. The world is changing, even though it has always been changing. Recently, it has started changing very rapidly, and I'm sure you noticed these changes specifically in our field, communication solutions and IT solutions. I want to emphasize that communication must be the infrastructure of the state. This is a key statement. Data is a strategic asset. The law of a country is not the same as the law of a global platform. So what does this mean? For example, the law of France does not mean that a global platform follows French laws. Thus, today communication must be the state's infrastructure. I'd like to illustrate this point further by recalling events in Nepal last September, when a revolution swept through in just a week. The government was almost torn apart by hand. The entire government was smashed and the government house was burned down. Many people suffered, especially government officials. All this was coordinated through WhatsApp. Nepal, a small and poor country, could do nothing about the fact that all this was directed via WhatsApp. This is what's happening today in the world. This situation is making all countries without exception think about a simple question. Who controls communication? Today, we see that it's Meta with WhatsApp, Facebook, and other solutions, Signal and American messengers, Telegram, a messenger with rather unclear jurisdiction and ownership. In general, these are the so-called big tech companies, mostly American companies like WhatsApp, Google, Apple, and so on. It's important to understand that any global messenger is subject to the laws of its jurisdiction. This means that if the messenger is American, it must comply with American laws, and according to its terms of use, is obliged to provide data upon requests from American authorities. Yet another quite striking case regarding WhatsApp, which in every chat is said to be protected by global end-to-end encryption. Yet from that very chat, the conversations of two top politicians, Ushakov and Witkoff, discussing something on WhatsApp, were published, which then resulted in a detailed report about their discussion in Bloomberg. Many countries see and understand this. Those that can afford it, like France, are already rolling out their own messengers and are talking about bans. For example, Europe is discussing banning WhatsApp, X, formerly Twitter, and TikTok on its territory. In other words, each state wants to control its internal communication. Yet another very vivid example that just recently was in the news, WhatsApp shares encryption data with Mossad, the Israeli intelligence service. You can read that report in more detail later, but it clearly and transparently states that they provide data about those unfortunate Palestinians who later die from rocket strikes. This is what a protected messenger means today. It is one that complies with the laws of the country where it was created. Therefore, huge global risks arise for countries and companies, primarily because the access their users have to messengers is governed by the laws of another country. Vendor lock is a special term. It means that vendors, companies providing services like Meta or those behind Signal or Snapchat, control how services are delivered and utilized. A clear example is Slack and some other companies that at some point simply cut off paid-for access for Russian companies to their services. Just by the vendor's decision, overnight people woke up with broken communication. Sanction-based disconnections are different. Those happen when politicians intervene and instruct their companies what to do. There are also blockages and reputational risks, like those negotiations or photos that later become public. Thus, all countries and corporations today have come to realize the need for their own control. This bridges to our solution, a super app with global and regional prospects, GemSpace. You know it, you use it. It has more than 50 million users as we have finally crossed the 50 million mark. 176 countries, 27 languages and channels, spaces, many apps and wallets are already in the process of implementation, creation, and user access. This makes our application not just a messenger, but a platform and a super app. This is the first thing to clarify when people say that we are just another messenger. No, we are not just another messenger. Now, the second piece of news, related to what I mentioned in the first part. In 2025 and early 2026, we completed what we call sovereignization, the technical capability to separate the platform. What does this mean? It means we can deploy a country-specific clone anywhere, whether it's Brazil, Argentina, or Indonesia, Malaysia, or Qatar, Saudi Arabia, South Africa. This application can be deployed on any local server, which every country has today, and it will be fully subject to local laws. Moreover, we can provide that country with its own brand design and, naturally, full control. Most importantly, note that none of the big tech platforms offer sovereignization. You can't go to WhatsApp and say, "Make me a WhatsApp for my country," or ask Telegram, "Please make me a Telegram for Burma." They don't do that. It's in their interest to keep all users on one global platform. That's why sovereignization is extremely important today. Without blaming the USA, where most of these big tech companies are based, every country today wants its strategic communications to comply with its own laws, not those of another jurisdiction. Even US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has spoken openly about this, encouraging countries to do so. Here's his direct recent quote. "The position of the US President and the USA is that we expect every country in the world to act in its national interests. Today, we are that application that allows any country to act in its national interests by acquiring this application from us. Therefore, our application has fantastic sales prospects today because we are unique and the only ones offering this. We have different monetization scenarios, white label for other countries, when our application is deployed under their brand and full control. These can be regional solutions, for example, for West Africa or South Africa. Most importantly, a strategic sale when a major investor sees a huge revenue source because a national messenger is needed by every country today. Or we will go public with an IPO when we demonstrate monetization within the app and show revenues. This is the capitalization of the asset. It represents the income of investors and the potential of those Class A shares that many investors currently hold. So this was regarding our B2C project, our main project. But we also have another project, GEM Team. A corporation is not a state. Just as every country wants a sovereign national messenger, corporations want a secure corporate messenger. For example, conversations between Witkoff and Ushakov can end up on Bloomberg via WhatsApp. Similarly, others, perhaps less publicly, could be reading negotiations between company executives or leaders of government institutions. This is a real risk. That's why, for the past year and a half, a relatively short time, we have been successfully developing our corporate messenger, GEM Team. It is an application designed to meet all communication needs of both companies and government agencies. This product addresses, on one hand, the protection of business data and reputation, as it is a fully company-controlled on-premise solution. On the other hand, it provides our investors with an additional income source through licensed sales extending years into the future. GEM Team is a B2B, business-to-business, and B2G, business-to-government and solution. It supports strictly on-premises deployment, meaning local installation on company servers with full corporate control. It operates on a licensing model, known as the software as a service model. This means it is not a sale of the software itself, but a rental model, selling the right to use the software based on licenses, typically annual licenses with renewal options. The success of this approach is undeniable. The first licenses have been sold, the first dividends paid, and we are moving toward hundreds and thousands of licenses today. I want to highlight that this is a fantastic moment for investors. We have invested a lot of time, but that phase is behind us. The application has been created. Last year, we focused on making the application sovereign. This year, we will demonstrate its monetization. Showing monetization means the riskiest phase, whether it would be created, work, or be in demand, is already behind us. Most importantly, we have entered a market where countries and corporations need full control over their communications. Investors now have two parallel income streams developing. GemSpace involves selling white label versions as separate solutions, representing capitalization and sale of the assets with substantial, very substantial profits. This is the direction we're heading. Whereas Gem Team has clients as enterprise companies and government agencies, it sells licenses ensuring a steady cash flow and recurring revenue. It's hard to make a one-time sale because once it's sold, the next step is license renewal. And you know how renewing a license is simple, just a few clicks. The market opportunity before us is enormous. We're not focusing on North America or the US with its big tech companies, but rather on South America, Latin America, African countries, GCC countries, the Middle East, Central Asia, and Southeast Asia. These are all our markets, because such solutions don't exist there yet. Using Nepal as an example, as mentioned previously, these countries quickly ask themselves, do we want to experience the same revolution that happened in Nepal? Returning to investors, what do we see today? GemSpace represents value growth, while Gem Team provides regular cash flow. We continuously conduct independent audit valuations of GemSpace to depict its value growth for the shareholders, and it's simply fantastic. Compared to other assets today, which either grow 100% annually or drop 150% in a single month, we show steady growth. From $47 million when we started back in 2017 to $1.64 billion in the 2024 valuation. And very soon, the 2026 valuation will be significantly higher than the 2024 audit. Regarding Gem Team, we are absolutely confident in its income because I've already explained why corporations need it. It's all about the timing of market entry. Any product you bring to market requires adaptation, initial sales, then second, third sales, until it starts selling in batches, then tens, then hundreds of licenses. Today, investors naturally want straight, rocket-like growth. One license today equals $1. 2 licenses tomorrow equal $10. 3 licenses the day after equal $100. But that's not how it works. Growth happens exponentially, through gradual sales, but with consistent increases in revenue. We see that our shareholders who hold Class C shares already feel the income is too small. So we've decided to end the issuance of Class C shares at this stage. We believe the largest and most necessary investments in the Gem Team project have been made. Next is the process of building our development potential and entering the market. To avoid diluting the income of the so-called early investors, we decided to stop issuing shares at the level of 2 million shares for shareholders. The number of Class C shares that you see today in your shareholder accounts will be final, so that early investors can enter and earn income from the first dozens and hundreds of licenses. We might continue investing when the income becomes larger, but second and third investors always knowingly receive less income than the so-called early investors. I want to give you a small example that many people don't really think about. Microsoft went through a period when investors didn't know what to do, whether to keep supporting the company, invest, or buy its shares. This was in the 1990s because the market only saw the operating system, only Windows, only software. Investors argued about Windows versions, about competition, about license prices. Meanwhile, Microsoft was building a huge infrastructure. It was establishing a communication standard between computers, creating corporate infrastructure, making businesses dependent on its ecosystem, creating a subscription model, that very licensing model, and then rolled it all out. Not all at once, not immediately. But in the 2000s, as Microsoft Azure Cloud appeared, bringing huge revenue, Office 365 selling probably in the tens of millions of corporate licenses, government contracts, recurring cash flow, all this led to a doubling in Microsoft's value. Precisely because the company didn't just remain a developer of software, but focused on infrastructure. So today, drawing this analogy, we see that when the market only saw software, only new Windows versions, Microsoft was actually building infrastructure, a new standard for the digital environment, a system no one can refuse. Today, millions and millions of companies rely on it. This is what created a trillion-dollar company. GemSpace today is not just a messenger as many see it for simple communication. It is infrastructure, a large communication infrastructure. Mini apps, wallets, channels, These are worth much more than just a single messenger, because communication, as you saw in the examples today, is the foundation of any economy. User data is truly the new oil, a huge and constantly growing source of income. So, to conclude my presentation, the strategic position of today's investor. We built not just a messenger, we have built a digital structure, sovereignty, a dedicated national messenger, and separately secured communications. This comes at a high cost. The year 2026 will be our year of communications. For today's investors, this represents growth, an increase in their assets and cash flow, a major infrastructure project, an entry into the application before its mass expansion, that is, before the application goes public and everyone can buy shares. You know that the highest profits are always taken by the so-called early investors. Therefore, I sincerely hope you will see beyond the facade of a messenger, the vast infrastructure and 2 income streams we are creating, which will undoubtedly lead to substantial sources of revenue. You can learn more at gemspace.net and in our channel in the GemSpace app, and we look forward to staying in touch.